If you hated Prometheus, you'll probably hate Covenant as well. Fair warning up front, this video will contain a lot of spoilers and very few visuals. Well, personally, I thought highly of Prometheus. I never expected a perfect tie-in with Aliens, since I anticipated a lot of sequels to spawn forward. And that brings us to Covenant, which is, again, named after a ship. Judging by the end of the movie, we'll have at least one more of these prequels before everything syncs up with Alien from 1979. So, the Covenant is a colony ship taking people way out into the unknown to, colonize another planet. On board is a synthetic who looks just like David, but his voice is a little different and they call him Walter. Later, we find out that Walter was given less functionality than David because David was a creepy mofo from the day he activated. Yet somehow Peter Whalen said, hey, let's bring him along to explore the engineers. But anyways, the Covenant's computer system, a mother unit, informs Walter of a problem seconds before it hits. And the crew, of course, has to be woken up to fix it. It's not a great awakening, and there's a horrific death within a cryostasis pod. Then, while fixing up the ship, a crew member picks up this broken up signal in his headgear, which we later find out is Dr. Shaw singing a John Denver song. We have no idea why this signal is sent out or why Dr. Shaw recorded it, but in retrospect, I'm pretty sure it was a trap sent by David, and he couldn't use his own face or words because he was a model of a synthetic. There were lots who looked like him, so he would be more easily found out. After finding the recording, though, the crew decides they'd rather go colonize this uncharted planet that seems to have a livable environment rather than go back into hypersleep for 7 years. Okay, guys and gals, if you ever find yourself in this situation, don't make dumb choices. Yes, this planet was closer, but they knew nothing about why it was uncharted or what kind of inhabitants, parasites, or diseases might be on that planet that kills people. And these guys went out in the open without even bothering with spacesuits. It's like they wanted to die. When they get to the planet, they find some vegetation, but absolutely no life. Well, there was no life, then an idiot steps on this plant pod thing. It was kind of like a mini black coconut, which releases microbial spores that pour into the air and then gets absorbed through the skin. These spores basically act like a face hugger, laying an egg or something to the effect inside the body. Well, the alien that popped out, actually, I guess you'd call it a spine burster. It seems like the spores went into his body and fused with his backbone to form new life. Another infected guy throws up an alien and dies, so maybe on the skin absorption level, that's just how it works. It combines with your organ, makes a new creature, and it comes out. Looking at this from start to finish, my best guess is that these plants are the beginning of everything. The engineers probably found the plants somewhere out in space, figured out that they were super deadly, and they started messing around with them to see what they could do on another planet. The terraform cave that we see in Prometheus. Again, this part is just a speculative theory, but through the engineers' research, the black goo was found to be the best and safest way to transport the spores. But, oh yeah, apparently if you open the black goo vials from Prometheus, they're filled with these mosquito-like bugs to transmit doom faster. David, for completely unexplained reasons, finds the engineers' planet and then bombards them with the vials, which destroys everything, somehow even their buildings, and almost immediately. In this mosquito form, the pathogen instantly creates alien hybrids that rip right out of their hosts at full size and destroy/kill everything in sight. Covenant somewhat proves my faith versus science theory because David reveals that he's playing at being a god now. He found his creators, the humans, to be subpar and unimpressive, so David wanted to try his robotic hand at making life. He's been studying the aliens he's produced in depth. And again, for unclear reasons, he also dismembered Dr. Shaw while simultaneously claiming to be in love with her. But David says he's had some success with the aliens, to which he means our familiar alien eggs with facehuggers in them. So that has to be the connector here. David doesn't want to make aliens to go forth and kill, kill, kill. He wants them to also reproduce, learn, and adapt like he himself has done as a synthetic. But David also wants to make something that's different from humans, something that's better by his standards. And so David made it to where the black spores were no longer a bioweapon, as the engineers likely intended them to be. They were now the original link in an evolutionary chain that led to reproducing organic life. Eerily, just like Peter Whalen in his 2023 TED Talk, David has taken the power from his god to become a god himself. When I watched Prometheus, I always thought that David's actions were because that's what Mr. Whalen wanted him to do. But David was really being a puppet master the entire time. I bet he said something awful to the engineer that killed Peter Whalen, and that's why he attacked him. So if the engineers were technically the god of humans, then David just became the equivalent of Zeus by destroying the engineers. David is now the top of the godly food chain because he creates or destroys anyone he pleases while being impervious to death himself. For those of you dying to know, Alien Covenant ends with the crew going back into hypersleep and realizing all too late that their Walter synthetic has been replaced by David. David then goes into the storage room where all the human embryos are being kept, and he stores 2 facehugger embryos. But the really interesting part is that David uses an override code, and part of that code was the name David. And this ship in space during the year 2104, 10 years after David vanished in Prometheus, automatically takes his override command. I assume the next film in David's Holy Trinity will fill in more gaps. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed enough to like, subscribe, and share this video. I've also got a lot of other videos on my channel that you are fully encouraged to go check out. Plus, you can find me on Facebook at Say Halo Goodbye, which is my gamer tag, or Twitter at _Fanily.